And welcome back to another edition of Sustainability This Month, your go-to source for the latest updates in the world of sustainability. I am Mala Panjwani and I'm here again, all excited to guide you through today's program, brought to you by the Forum for Sustainable Enterprise. This month, we have 4 insightful sessions lined up for you, focusing on the latest developments in sustainability disclosures and regulations, the SDG performance across regions and corporates. Following the second session, we'll have a lighthouse section as well, where we will take the case study of a leading global organization and discover how it is setting the benchmark for sustainability and driving impactful progress in corporate responsibility. We'll then end our broadcast with the latest updates in the green commodity and carbon market. So let's dive in. Our first session today focuses on the latest updates in sustainability disclosures and regulations. It's a crucial area for companies looking to maintain transparency and accountability in their sustainability efforts. Well, we have some significant updates to discuss today, starting with the newly launched interoperability mapping between the GRI and TNFD. Now, let's break this down. As we understand that GRI focuses on a broad range of sustainability topics covering economic, environmental, and social impacts, while TNFD zeroes in on nature-related risk and opportunities like biodiversity, ecosystem services. Now, this mapping aligns the TNFD disclosure recommendations with the GRI standards to make reporting more consistent, efficient, and easier to integrate. Now, what are the key elements of this mapping? Firstly, we see a clear alignment between the frameworks when it comes to nature-related concepts and definitions, including biodiversity loss. Now, this is based on the 5 drivers of biodiversity loss as defined by Intergovernmental Science Policy Platform on Biodiversity and Ecosystem Services, also known as IPBES. Now, this mapping also brings GRI's materiality approach into the mix, ensuring strong alignment between TNFD's disclosure matrix and GRI's environmental standards. An important part of the TNFD, the LEAP approach, which helps organizations identify and assess nature-related issues, is also embedded in GRI 101. Now, what does this mean for us? Well, consistency in reporting, a strategic approach to materiality, and an easier way to identify nature-related issues. Now, this integration means organizations can more efficiently report and stakeholders can more easily access relevant information. Now, let's take a quick look at both the frameworks. Now, GRI is a broad sustainability reporting framework that covers the economic, environmental, and social impacts. Now, let's understand how both of these frameworks are aligned into this mapping. Firstly is the governance. Now, GRI focuses on the governance of sustainability within organizations, and TNFD adds a nature-related angle to it. Now, what's the key point in this is that both require organizations to disclose how they manage sustainability and nature-related issues at the governance level. Now, when it comes to strategy, GRI encourages disclosure of overall sustainability strategies, while TNFD zooms in on nature-related strategies. When it comes to risk management, GRI includes environmental risks, whereas TNFD adds a dedicated focus on only nature-related risks. Now, TNFD's specific lens on nature enhances GRI's broader environmental risk management in this. Next, we move on to metrics and targets. Now, GRI provides metrics for environmental impact, including biodiversity, while TNFD focuses again on nature-specific metrics. We can map GRI's environmental matrix to TNFD's nature-focused matrix for a complete picture of impact. Now, what's the benefit of all of this? The benefit of this integration is actually streamlined reporting. Integrating GRI and TNFD reduces duplication, making reporting easier. Second is consistency and clarity, as discussed. Now, aligning these frameworks ensures more consistent and comparable reports across organizations. Thirdly, it will help us for a comprehensive risk assessment. Combining these approach gives a fuller view of environmental and nature-related risks and opportunities. Well, there are certain challenges also that needs to be kept in mind. It requires careful planning to integrate both frameworks effectively without an overlap. TNFD is still relatively new, so we'll need to keep an eye on its evolving guidance. Now, again, this interoperability between GRI and TNFD offers organization a chance to improve their reporting processes, combining broad sustainability metrics with nature-specific disclosures. By leveraging both frameworks, one can ensure a more comprehensive, clear, and consistent approach to sustainability reporting. Moving on, we have another update from the Science Based Targets Initiative, SBTI. Now, SBTI has made notable progress by entering the drafting phase of the phase out of oil and gas sector. So, what are the key elements in this? Ambitious emission reduction targets. Now, this draft standards require oil and gas companies to set ambitious GHG emission reduction targets that are consistent with a global phase out of fossil fuels. Now, this includes both direct emissions, scope 1, and indirect emissions, scope 2 and scope 3, with a strong emphasis on scope 3, which typically account for the largest share of total emissions in this sector. Secondly, an absolute emission reduction. Unlike intensity-based targets, which focus on reducing emissions per unit of energy produced, this draft standards will emphasize absolute emission reductions. Now, this approach reflects the need for a significant and real decrease in total emissions rather than just efficiency, while potential maintaining or increasing overall fossil fuel production. Secondly, this standard will outline specific decarbonization pathways for the oil and gas sector, dealing how companies can achieve the necessary emissions reductions. Now, this pathway are based on the latest climate science and are designed to be well aligned with the 1.5 degree warming limit. They likely include milestones for reducing fossil fuel extraction, scaling up renewable energy investments, and transitioning away from fossil fuel-based business model. Now, there'll be certain restrictions on the new fossil fuel development as well. This draft proposes certain restrictions on the new investments that will be made on fossil fuel development. This includes exploration for new oil and gas reserves, as in continued investment in new fossil fuel infrastructure is incompatible with achieving net zero emissions by 2050. Now, phase out timelines are also postulated. SBTI draft standards will provide timelines for the phase out of oil and gas activities. These timelines are designed to be in line with achieving net zero emissions globally by mid-century, with interim targets that ensure companies are on track to meet their long-term goals. Lastly, transparency and reporting is one major factor. Companies are expected to be transparent about their progress towards meeting their science-based targets. The draft standards will include requirements for regular reporting and public disclosure of progress, allowing stakeholders to hold companies accountable for their commitments. Lastly, the draft standards will recognize the importance of just transition for workers and communities dependent on the oil and gas industry. They will encourage companies to plan for their social implications of the phase out, including the jobless and economic shifts, and to engage with stakeholders to mitigate negative impacts. Now, the push of these standards come from the urgent need of the oil and gas sector to decarbonize. Aligning their reporting with decarbonization goals allows companies to strengthen their credibility, identity, climate opportunities, and achieve tangible emission reductions. Now, this particular standard will also have certain implications on the oil and gas industry. First will be on business model transformation. Companies in the oil and gas sector will need to significantly transform their businesses models, shifting away from the fossil fuel extraction and towards renewable energy and other sustainable practices. Now, this standard will also increase the pressure on them to accelerate their transition efforts, aligning with growing investor and regulator demands for climate action. Now, also, but adopting to these standards will be crucial for managing transition risk, including assets and changing market dynamics as the world towards decarbonization is moving. Now, as we understand that this particular standard is in its draft phase now, so after the drafting phase, a draft standard will be available for public consultation. SBTI invites all the stakeholders to engage in shaping the final standards as well. So the information regarding the public consultation will be shared on the SBTI website. Also, we will all be closely monitoring any updates regarding this development. So I would request all to stay tuned and subscribe to our future broadcast that we can also cover this and let you know about the latest information. Well, now in another significant update from SBTI, it has launched a comprehensive sector-specific science-based framework designed to guide companies and financial institutions within the building sector value chain, align their practices with net zero targets. Now, this framework sets and provides sector-specific criteria guiding stakeholders to phase out fossil fuel installation and reduce emissions by 2030. Now, what will be the key actions that have been outlined by the SBTI for the building sector? First will be commit to halting fossil fuel installation. Companies and financial institutions adopting the criteria must commit to ceasing the installation of fossil fuel-based equipment and reducing their emissions by half by 2030. Second, a whole building approach will be taken into this, covering all energy consumption and fugitive emissions, for example, leakages from the building operations. Thirdly, reduce in-use operational emissions. Regional pathways for in-use emissions, that is to address emissions associated with buildings' energy use, are developed to ensure targets reflect variations in local power grids and building usage. Next, there'll be lower upfront embodied emissions. This criteria will now require companies to establish targets to reduce emissions from raw materials, manufacturing, transportation, and construction, aligning with the global 1.5 degrees Celsius pathway. Lastly, retrofitting insufficient buildings. Now, SBTI recommends to these companies to accelerate their retrofitting of existing buildings to improve energy efficiency, to decarbonize old buildings and meet net zero goals by 2030. Now, doing this must be more than the double by 2030 to align with IEA's net zero by 2050 scenario, focusing on decarbonizing older buildings. Now, this particular standard can be accessed from SBTI's website, Buildings Criteria. Also, we'll be sharing a document, a link to the document at the end of this session, which will have all the links that we have discussed in the session today. All the links, the forms, the registration forms, the webinar forms, everything will be provided in that one whole document. Also, to understand this, continuing with this, SBTI will also be having a webinar on SBTI building sector criteria. This webinar will be organized on October 17 to provide an in-depth look at the new building sector criteria and address questions from stakeholders. The details of this will be shared in that same document as well. To give a brief about it, the webinar will be held on 17th October 2024, and there'll be two sessions. One session will be at around 7:30 p.m. IST, and the other one will be around 1:30 p.m. IST on the same day. The registration links to both the sessions will be shared in that single document that we'll share at the end of the session. Well, now this wraps up our first session for today, and let's now turn our attention to the second session. That is, herein we'll see the performance of SDGs across regions and corporates, highlighting both the challenges and successes in sustainability reporting. We'll begin with a look at the best practices in corporate sustainability reporting first. So, Time and Statista has revealed the top performers list, that is world's most sustainable companies of 2024. Now, this annual ranking showcases the top 500 companies worldwide that are leading the way in sustainability and environmental reporting. Well, what is the methodology that Time and Statista has taken into this is they have employed a robust methodology to determine these rankings. Companies were assessed based on their adherence to critical sustainability programs and standards, including the 1.5-degree target from the SBTi, high scores from CDP, performance in Scope 1 and Scope 2 emissions, the proportion of renewable energy that they utilize, and lastly, the emission reductions that they have achieved from 2021 and 22. Now, this evaluation process also included a thorough review of each company's sustainability reports and their integration of sustainability into their business models. Now, here is the list of the top 10 companies that were identified as being the most sustainable. Now, securing the top spot, Schneider Electric is a pioneer in energy management and automation. While in the list, as you can see, many companies that rank highly are in industries that don't make any physical products, like banking, tech, and consulting. There were companies that showed sustainability is possible even if you do not make things. For example, Illumina, the US biotechnology company that's fifth on the list, recently debuted its most powerful gene sequester while also reducing packaging waste by 90% from the previous model. Again, Moncler, the Italian luxury fashion house, ranked third on the list by using recycled materials, recycling more than 80% of its nylon scraps in 2023 and using 100% renewable energy at its directly managed offices, stores, factories, and logistic hubs. Well, the full list of these 500 sustainable companies will be available on the same document we'll be sharing. So I would request everyone to stay tuned till the end to access that document as well. Well, as we discussed that Schneider Electric has topped the list. So let's deep dive into the Schneider Electric, how they are changing their sustainability game, how they're performing well, what they're doing, what strategies that they have developed. So Schneider Electric has emerged as the world's most sustainable company by 2020. In 2024, now this company is based in France. Schneider Electric stands out for its commitment to sustainability across multiple dimensions. Firstly, carbon neutrality. So this particular strategy that they have adopted is carbon neutrality. They have a plan to achieve this by 2025. It has its own sustainability impact program for the same to track its performance and has also reduced emissions across its supply chain. They have implemented fourth industrial revolution technologies to deliver greater sustainability and efficiency, such as the installation of an IoT-enabled device, Equalizer 4.0, that has significantly reduced energy consumption and CO2 emissions from across all their factories. Secondly, Schneider Electric helps its customer reduce emissions and improve energy efficiency through its comprehensive sustainable businesses. Thirdly, the climate score. Now, this company is achieving A rating from CDP from the past 12 years, which certainly reflects its long-lasting commitment to environmental performance. Lastly, Schneider Electric provides a clear and transparent communication on its ESG efforts through its website, social media channel. They are like completely active on it, always there updating their clients, their stakeholders as to what they're doing on the sustainability front. Well, now this brings us to the end of these third session, and now in the fourth one, in our last segment, well, we'll be discussing the key developments in the green commodity and the carbon markets. We'll be discussing certain updates regarding this as recently. So recently, Climate Action Center for Excellence, that is CACE, in its collaboration with MSurge, is facilitating a unique opportunity to engage in transparent and efficient carbon credit market. So it's going to organize an auction. So in this partnership, what they're aiming is to leverage MSurge cutting edge technology to conduct auctions specifically for Article 6 project of the Paris Agreement. So this will specifically have auctions for Article 6 project developers. Now this means one will have a dynamic platform to trade internationally transferred mitigation outcomes, that is ITMOs, under Article 6.2, while ensuring open access to the over-the-counter wholesale carbon market. Now, to understand this, they have listed down certain steps that need to be considered. First one is to register for this auction. Firstly, we have to complete the seller checker list. So to access the seller checker list, again, the QR code and the link to the same will be provided in the document at the end. Now after once we complete the seller checker list, we'll have to then submit the project documents and confirmation from the authorization. So confirmation will be required from CACE and MSurge both. And then the third step will be to register on the MSurge platform. So there'll be two different platforms. One is CACE's platform and the other will be MSurge platform. We'll have to register on both of them. Now, for registration on the MSurge platform is required to participate to access the trading tools for the auction. Again, the link for the same will be provided in that document. And the last, then after the registration, there'll be a review of all the participants that will occur. Lastly, we'll have to sign a document, that is the seller's document and the auctions document, which again will be provided in the same document we'll be providing in the end, wherein the participants will have to read all the rules and regulations, abide by it, checklist it, and provide their project details, and then submit it to CACE and MSurge to review, to verify, and then they'll have a particular identification number for them to participate in the auction. Now, what will be the whole process of it? The auction will be hosted on the MSurge platform, with specific dates and time will be conveyed to the participants separately. And during the auction, the bids will be submitted to the platform, and the highest bid will secure the lot. The results will be published in real time on the platform, ensuring that there is transparency throughout the process. Now, how will be the finalization and delivery of this auction? The winning bid will be determined based solely on the highest price bid for each lot. Delivery of ITMOs will be governed by the terms agreed upon between both the sellers and the buyers, with an emphasis on maintaining transparency and fairness throughout the process. Lastly, we have a significant update regarding the green hydrogen development in India. So the Solar Energy Corporation of India, STCI, is calling for proposals to develop infrastructure for green hydrogen hubs as part of India's national green hydrogen mission. Now, bidding for this will end on October 7th, 2024. Now, this particular initiative aims to establish at least 2 such green hydrogen hubs in India, with each individual green hydrogen production and utilization capacity of at least 1 lakh MTPA. by 2025-26. Now, this will be backed by 200 crore investment by SCCI. Now, the support under this scheme for the developers will be provided only for the core infrastructure of the green hydrogen hubs. The infrastructure support will cover hydrogen storage, the transportation facilities, pipeline storage, transportation facilities, refueling stations, liquefaction technologies, water treatment, energy storage, etc. Now, in regards to this, the US Secretary of Energy, Jennifer Granholm, will join the local officials for the opening of the ARCH2 office, which recently secured up to $925 million in federal funding for clean energy projects. They will combine with the locals of the Indian market to develop these projects. Well, now this brings us to the end of this session. Before we wrap up, I would like to thank our team at the Forum for Sustainable Enterprises for their invaluable contributions in making this broadcast possible. Also, a special thank you for our audience for their patience and their participation into this broadcast. Well, at the Forum for Sustainable Enterprises, we are dedicated to driving the transition to net zero 2050, the circular economy, and the UN SDGs. Since our inception, we have been a collaborative hub for businesses, governments, and thought leaders fostering partnerships that make a global impact. You can discover more about FSC and how our activities work on our website, www.fsc.org.in. Also, a request to our audience, as we embark on this journey towards sustainability, we would like to invite all of you to be a part of it. We welcome partners, reporters, contributors, or anyone passionate about sustainability to join with us in sharing stories and making a difference. You can share your articles, your stories, your thoughts on Krish, KRISH at fscfse.org.in. The link of the same will also be provided in the same document. So you can access it and share your stories to be a part of our broadcast as well. So again, thank you for joining to us on the Sustainability This Month broadcast, and see you next month. Until then, stay sustainable. Thank you.